Good afternoon, James.
Comment ça va? So Washington's making really excellent wines now. And,
Yes.
and also I must say that SYRAH is just incredible from Washington.
Indeed.
What do you think? Why is Washington so great for SYRAH with a continental climate?
Yeah, well, I mean, the continental, I mean, it's first of all, you know, we've got the Cascade Range. So it's definitely, you know, so I mean, we definitely, it's very continental there. It's very, as you know, very cold in the winter, very hot in the summer. But I think this is a variety of all the different terroirs we have in Washington. And Washington and the different valleys, Columbia valleys, Yakima valleys, Walla Walla. And as you narrow things down, even in Walla Walla, there's so much variation in terroir there that SYRAH is like a chameleon. It just breathes terroir. It wants to take terroir and translate into the wines. And that's definitely a grape that's very well that, you know, in comparison compared to Merlot or Cabernet Sauvignon, for instance.
I agree.
It really breathes the place. And that's what we get in Washington. And look, I mean, if you think of Washington as half of the size of France. So if you think of like if France, you know, France, it's a big place. It's so amazing. The variation of terroir is just tremendous. So that's the reason why SYRAH from the Columbia or from the Wahluke Slope is going to taste differently than a SYRAH from the Red Mountain, for instance, of the Horse Seven Hills or Walla Walla. And then in Walla Walla, a SYRAH from the Stones, you know, the ancient riverbed where we are, will be different than a SYRAH from the foothills, where the foothills is higher in elevation. There's more soil there, but it's cooler. So you'll definitely have more pepperiness, like on the foothills that you have in the Stones. The Stones will bring more umami, more earthy characters, as you can taste from our wines.
Totally.
More savoriness, more meatiness from those wines. So that's the reason why. I mean, SYRAH is definitely, and most of the SYRAHs from Washington are not that huge.
No, that's what I like.
Yeah, you know, they're very friendly, and they're very. They shows more refined, more elegance. So that's why I think, of course, when customers think of Washington wine, they think of Cabernet Sauvignon, but I think SYRAH is definitely gaining momentum. And
do you see the market also? You remember for a while in the States there were psalms and people saying no jamais SYRAH, no SYRAH, it's like no one wants to drink it. Has that changed, do you think, in recent years?
That's a very good question. I think for people it's changing, and one reason is because finally winemakers are approaching a different approach how they make the wine.
That's so cool.
Yes, they you know, we know how to make great Cabernet Sauvignon in Washington State, and they were actually, the approach was very much like dealing with the Bordeaux varietal. You know, a lot of cold soaking, a lot of extraction, a lot of destemming, complete destemming, and making very big SYRAH like Cabernet Sauvignon. And it's not like that. I mean, you have to think about Pinot Noir, in my opinion. When you want, so that's the reason why I think there's more people using old cluster. Than ever. I'm not saying 100%, but some are using 100%. But a range of old cluster brings definitely that spiciness and brings the core and the structure to the wine and brings a lot of freshness. You know, that's all about the freshness. And that's, so therefore, I think for people who are embracing those techniques, I don't think they have any problem selling their SYRAHs. And that's what.
And there's been even a change too. You've seen some of your colleagues, like they're making much more about, you know, obviously Cayuse Vineyards is the best example from 10 years ago. And I'm tasting them now, and they're doing whole cluster. They're making much more balanced wines. And I think that's exciting that people are recognizing that. I was talking to the winemaker of Paul Meyer, and she said to me, she goes, "Oh yeah, I really love SYRAH." I go, "What do you think of Washington SYRAH?" She goes, "Oh, they're so awesome. Man, I drink those all the time." And this is the woman from Napa.
From Napa, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And, I agree with you. And the thing is, for some reason, people, winemaker, like 10 years ago, they were really waiting for, we will be the first one to peak. Quite often, actually, we are the first one to peak because we trust our palate and we don't look at numbers. It's just you test and say, okay, this is ready, and you bring the fruit inside and you check the bricks, and it's like sometimes it's 22.5.
Wow, just like the old days. Yeah.
But it's ready when it's ready. So, but if you don't trust your palate and you test and you think it's ready and you go inside and you check the bricks and it's 22.5, well, most of the people, guess what they are doing? Well, no, it's not ready. The flavor are not right and are not there. And they're waiting and waiting and waiting. And then you ended up with a mess.
I totally agree.
Wines are completely disjointed with those high alcohol, and you have to add water. And it's crazy. It's this is the world upside down. I'm not the Antichrist. We never had water at Cayuse, ever. So that means, James, it can be very challenging some years. And talking about 2018, it was very challenging for us. When you hear a lot of people, they're like, "Oh my God, that was a perfect vintage."
Yeah.
I mean, in the textbook, this is because you know what? Everything came very ripe. It's ripe. It's a ripe year. It's a big year. Okay. And there was a lot of fruit. But what I'm saying, and this is a great vintage, I love the 18. But when I say for us, that was very challenging because everything was ripe at the same time.
Okay.
In 2 weeks, we brought all the SYRAHs in 2 weeks. For us, it's usually you bring SYRAH in 3 weeks, and usually in the middle of harvest, I always say, well, there's no great harvest at Cayuse if there is no rain in the middle of harvest. And I say that because usually, it allows us to stop picking for a week. And we have more hang time. You see? So, we bring the SYRAHs, and then after that, if you have some rain, you wait another week, to bring the cabernet sauvignons and the GRENACHE. So you have more hang time. But in 2018, we did not get that. In fact, we got the first rain, I believe, on the 7th of October or something like that. But all the fruit was already in. And usually we don't finish picking until the end of October.
Yeah.
So that was very challenging for us. But hey, we have tank capacity. That's something that we have because it's very important for us. When a year like that, when you have a rush, you don't have to digest or don't have to press earlier. You just focus, and every tank has their fermentation, and you don't have to empty a tanks to bring more fruit, to allow to bring more fruit. So very challenging. We work hard, and the result, it's the truth is in the bottle. I mean, obviously, beautiful wines. They are gorgeous now. I believe that they are very wide shoulder wine. I mean, big structure, but they are very enjoyable now. I enjoy drinking the 18.
I totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any issue with, because I heard it was a big crop? Was there an issue that you had to crop thin in the summer?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we spent more time crop thinning in 2018 than ever. In fact, we had three passes. We started crop thinning the Grenache after the 4th of July, early, because there was so much fruit there. So we knew that was going to be a big crop, and we went first pass, second pass, and third pass. A few weeks before harvest, I said we still have to go back because the clusters were larger than normal, and the berries also were larger. So we did a lot of removing the shoulders and only leave the trunk. And we did that on all the different varietals. And even SYRAH, usually we don't touch the SYRAH that much. We go to a certain number of clusters, like horsepower. Usually we leave 6 or 7 clusters per vines. That's it in a horsepower, because there's so much density in those vineyards. And one day I really hope that you'll be able to come and visit.
That's one of my goals now, because I've really enjoyed every year tasting Washington wines, and again, it actually made me love SYRAH again, because what happened in the Rhone, I got sort of bored with it, and now when I taste Washington, like your wines and a number of others, you're like, whoa, this reminds me of the real deal.
Or the real deal back then. In the Rhone, for some reason, of course, I like for me, with SYRAH and Pinot Noir and Grenache, I only drink wines from vignerons who are traditional.
Yeah, like Jamais or Rose Tang, people like that.
Again, those are beautiful wines, but I like Hermitage with old cluster. And now they're like distemming all those wines. Yeah. And so what are you guys doing? I love the wines from Bernard Faury.
Yeah.
Hermitage. The old
yeah, man. Sure. Yeah.
But you know what? I think I've been buying all those wines because he's the last of the Mohican.
Yeah.
He never owned.
That's a good tip.
That's him, Bernard Faury.
Yeah.
He never owned a crusher distemmer, and he had the same approach than Jean-Tas d'Hervieux in Côte-Rôtie.
Yeah.
I love those wines.
I love that too.
I love Noël Verset.
Yeah.
Those ones from Cornas. I love the Gonon. So the Gonon are still, they.
But have you seen, now Cornas is so expensive, like Allemagne, all these guys, it's crazy money, like 500 euros a bottle.
I used to purchase a case of both of the Chaillot and Renard every year. Yeah. Every year. And the last few years, I haven't purchased any. But I think no matter what, I'm gonna have to buy those wines because I love
I agree.
Wine. I really love cherries. But for the money, Clap is more reasonable price-wise. But,
I know, totally. You're right. It's crazy. Right. Like what happened to Clap? Poor Clap is now considered not the top guy anymore.
Yeah, but I love those wines. And
me too.
When you come to Walla Walla, we'll drink some Verset.
Because I remember Verset very well.
I've got more Verset, and those wines are like, for me, amazing. Noel is one of my mentors, and he's the one who actually, the first year, first vintage was for us 1997, and in 2000 we were 100% estate, and in 2001, this is the first year I use all cluster in SYRAH.
Okay.
In SYRAH, and this is because of Noel, because I used to go and visit Noel every year and go pruning with him in Cornas, and I will bring my SYRAHs to him. And I said, Noel, you have to be honest with me. What do you think of the wines? He said, I can see the potential, but there's one thing missing. I said, tell me what's missing. He said, you have to use all cluster.
What a great story.
Yes, I said, how come? It goes like, there's too much fruit. You don't have the freshness of what the stems are bringing. That's beautiful spiciness, pepperiness. And if you use some stems, your wines will be even better and it will be more layered. And in 2001, I started with Bionic Frog. Yeah. This is the first year I used 25% whole cluster. And of that block, I did a trial with 25% whole cluster, and the rest I did it like 100% these stems. And I was night and day. And not only that, it's you use too much new oak, and I was only using 25% new oak.
That's cool.
And it's like, yes.
What do you also use? And what percentage whole cluster do you do now?
It depends of the vintage.
On the year, okay.
It depends. Yeah. There's no recipe, James, at either Cayuse or the tribe or category. No recipe. We test the stems, and if they are fully ripe, you use more stems. But as a rule of thumb, I can tell you one thing: with horsepower And our category, we use more stems than for Cayuse and for no girls.
That's interesting. Okay.
Why? Because horsepower. Yes.
How about do you do it with God only knows?
Oh yes, the Grenache. We use a lot. I mean, God only knows that it's at least because Grenache ripen later, so the stems are very lignified, right? And we use, it depends, but rough every year it's between 70 to 100% stems in the Grenache.
Okay, now I understand.
You understand why you get that freshness, that it's very that almost Burgundian quality.
Yeah, totally.
It's very beautiful, and even more in horsepower, because in horsepower you reach those Grenache. I mean, look, even the colors of the horsepower Grenache, even lighter, beautiful, nice, light ruby hue, and the fruit ripen, but at lower. It's physiological ripe at lower Brix. I mean, usually we get what 12.5%, 13% alcohol. That's what we get. And we leave only 4 to 5, 6 clusters per vines. And it's all lignified. It's all wood.
So sorry, are you as excited about Grenache as SYRAH in Washington?
Yes, I am very excited as definitely. And it's more challenging because, it doesn't accept mediocrity. Nothing like that. It's like if you leave too much crop, you are going to pay it. You are going to pay because it's for instance, if we leave more than 1.5 tons per acre, James, it doesn't fully ripe. It's not fully ripe. You know what I mean? And that's the reason why a lot of growers, it's challenging for growers, for people who are trying to make a living selling their fruit, because it's
But I see some people. Sometimes I find that the Grenache can be a little bit overripe sometimes in Washington. SYRAH seems easier to deal with, but that's because. What do you think?
Well, I think it's probably because two things. Maybe those growers or those winemakers don't use enough oil clusters.
Yeah, I think so.
And also where it's planted, because it ripens. There's some areas that have friends who have, for instance, Grenache on the Red Mountains there, and I always call him during harvest, see how things going. And quite often, in the middle of harvest, I'm like, hey, how things going? It's like, oh, we're bringing our Grenache from the Red Mountain. I'm like, really? I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, it's already 26.5, 27 Brix.
Oh my God.
And when he says that, usually, and it's at 3 tons or 4 tons to the acre. So it's a pretty big crop, okay? And when he says that, usually my Grenache is at like what? 2 weeks behind, and I'm maybe at only 21 or 21.5 Brix. So
it's hilarious.
So that's the reason why I think Grenache it's like in Chateauneuf right now. I mean, sometimes it's too ripe. It's all right. I really enjoy Grenaches from Gigondas for my bed. Now it's higher in elevation, and you get more freshness.
Totally. But that's how they used to be. Tell me one thing. This isn't one of your very expensive wines, but I thought it was excellent in 18.
Yes, the Camaspello, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is one of our Bordeaux blend. It's it's well, I'm not surprised that you really like this wine because we are known for our SYRAHs, of course, and Grenache, some extent also Tempranillo, but we're not very known for our Bordeaux blends. And because it's very interesting, usually the Bordeaux varietals growing in the stones of the Walla Walla Valley, they're usually they're more feminine. you know, and people think of Washington Bordeaux blends or Cabernets like being quite often massive wines. And when you put these wines in a blind tasting with all those big Washington wines, you know, I mean, usually people don't get it because like they think they compare this one as being diluted. They say because
it's so good.
No, it's not. It's more like Bordeaux used to be 30, 40 years ago, you know, the old styles. You know, it's like refined, and that's what I like. And I even on the Cabernets, I use a little bit of old cluster.
Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. You know, some people are doing that in Bordeaux now as well. Yeah. Or it's like it's infusion, like infusing. And not much pump over, and going back to old style, using press wine and shorter extractions. So I think that I love that wine. I thought it was just so delicious and balanced. But
thank you.
No, really, I thought all the wines were fantastic. So if you had to compare 17, 18, and 19, like what first, how would you compare them, and which do you prefer?
It's a good question. 17, it's beautiful vintage. The wines are very refined and they're very elegant and very very drinkable right now. You know, I mean, it's made, the structure is not a big structure, but it's very refined for us. So I love them. And I will drink the 17. It's the ones obviously are going to age, but this is not a big vintage like 18. Yeah. 18. So I really enjoy 18, but I think 19 is going to be another classic vintage.
Wow. Okay.
Basically, I think that 19 is going to be a cross between 17 and 18. 18, I would love my 18 with maybe half a degree less alcohol, you know, but Mother Nature dictated that everything was going to be ripe at once. so I had to deal with that. But for me, I like 19 is going to be the next big thing to me. And even though 18 is quite a statement, I would say, and but I wish they could be a little lower in alcohol personally, you know.
And it's still not too. This was 14.4, so but you would like to see it under 14 or like 14?
Yeah, under 14 would be nice.
Yeah,
you know, but we could not do that in 18, and that's okay. I embrace the vintage. And I know a lot of people are going to say it's crazy. It's only 14.4. You know, I mean, you're going to see a lot of wine at 15. And those wines most likely also got some water.
Oh my God! Yeah, now I understand. And what will 19 be? It's like around 14 or lower.
Yeah. It's going to be in a 13 and a half.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, most of them like 13 and a half, and of course you have like few wines that above 14. That means like usually a Tempranillo will be above 14, or maybe a Grenache, Godoninos will be above 14, but you won't have, you know, it will be 14.1, 14.2, but it will be more in check with the alcohol, and for me it's very, very important. You know, I when I open a bottle of wine, I want to drink the whole bottle.
Yeah, I'm with you. And you can tell that you make wines that you enjoy drinking. That's what I like about your wines. Right away after I taste your wines, I'm like, well, I really want to drink this, but I have to taste some more wines.
Some more wine. It's like, you know, we always, James, when we go with a team, that means with assistant vigneron Elizabeth Boursier and Joel, our vineyard manager, and when we go test, we test together as a team, you know, and we make the decision together. And that's the beauty, to have all our vineyards in the same vicinity and not an hour and a half or 2.5 hour drive.
Yeah, that's cool.
You know, we go in the morning, we taste, and we are like, okay, that block at horsepower, that Syrah from SYRAH, it's for tomorrow. That's how we pick, because we are so close. But we always think, in the back of my mind, I always think about food.
Yeah.
Always. It's never, you cannot separate, for me, food and wine. They're meant to be together, right? Obviously, you have a restaurant, you know that better than I. And it's very, very important for me that when I taste the right fruit, but still with crisp acidity. And I'm like, oh, that's Syrah. I know if we pick it now, you have that spiciness, that white pepper. If we don't pick now, we're gonna lose that. And that Syrah is gonna be so beautiful with a rack of lamb. That let's pick tomorrow.
That's cool.
That's how we are.
I'm ready.
I love food, and though that's how we think, and that's the reason why. So they're not big wines in general, right? What do you think? I mean,
no. I like the balance, and you're right. They have plenty of character, and the alcohol you can slightly see, but they're fresh, and there's really the vouloir de boire. You really want to drink it, and that's essential. That's why I really appreciate the wines.
I like what you just said, vouloir de boire.
Yeah, right. That's it.
More power.
Okay, mon ami.
See you, James. Ciao.
Merci. Bon vacances aussi.
Merci, à bientôt.
Okay, ciao.